This is Jeremy Dover from the Australian Missionary News. I have with me here Jono Green. Jono's from Youth Alpha. Welcome, Jono.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Jono, tell us a little bit about your growing up years.
Well, I grew up as one of those dreaded PK kids, but I think I turned out all right. So my dad was a pastor. He was a Presbyterian minister when I was growing up in a small country town in New South Wales, and then in Queensland. And then he's been a chaplain, an army chaplain and a school chaplain for the last, 10 or so years. So for me, growing up, ministry has always been a part of my life, and I guess that was one thing that my parents passed on to me, was that it's so important to serve people. So I grew up with 8 kids as well, so you don't get a lot of space, and often you've got to make sure that you're relational with people and that you're trying to spend time with people, otherwise I guess you don't fit in when there's 8 people there.
So on that, Jono, if you're growing up as a pastor's kid, tell us a little bit about your faith journey. How did you become a Christian?
Well, for me, I guess growing up in a Christian family, that was definitely a great foundation, but it wasn't enough. When I got to probably about the age of 15 or 16, I started to, ask a little bit more about my faith and what it meant to me, and I did a couple of things, like went on a beach mission up in Queensland, and then went on a mission trip overseas, and particularly that mission trip was a real foundation for my Christian faith. It gave me an opportunity to go overseas and serve people in a third world country, and I came back from that thinking, hold on a second, there's something going on here that's not quite right, where I can go overseas and I can do missionary work, but in my own community where I am, how am I living out this faith that I claim to have? And so for me, that was a big step in me really realising what faith was and how important it was not just to claim it, but also to live it out.
That's great, Jono. So Jono, you work for Youth Alpha now. Tell us a little bit about the company that you work for.
So Youth Alpha is part of, for some of you might know of a guy called Nicky Gumbel. He was a huge part in starting the Alpha course. So Youth Alpha is a part of the Alpha course, which is a course that came out of Holy Trinity Brompton in the UK, and basically is a 15-session, 10-week course that explores the basics of the Christian faith. It gives people the opportunity to hear a little bit about, who Jesus is and why he came to earth and what his purpose was here, how we can communicate with God, a little bit about the Holy Spirit, and also about how we can live our faith out if we choose to go down that direction. So Youth Alpha is the youth version of that. In it we try and aim to have young people doing live talks, young people running the sessions, so that it's a real peer-to-peer ministry. We really find that that's effective when young people are sharing their stories and their testimonies with other young people. So that's what we try and make it to be. We purposefully, unlike the Alpha course, haven't recorded a DVD that people can run. For those of you familiar with the Alpha course, you know that there's a DVD of Nicky Gumbel, and he does all the talks. But in Youth Alpha, we try and encourage it to be completely run by young people. Obviously with some older people helping out and supporting those young people. But it's so important for young people to be able to engage their own peers, and that's what Youth Alpha is really all about.
So Jono, you mentioned Nicky Gumbel started Alpha many years ago. What about the future? What type of exciting projects have you got in store for us?
Well, I guess that's one of the exciting things about being part of something that really seeks to serve young people is as generations change and generations grow, you've also got to change and move with them. And so one of the things that we're really trying to seek to do is look at what are the needs for young Christians in Australia in terms of sharing their faith with their friends. And I guess for us, one of the big things we really feel is that for a lot of young people, it's a hard thing to actually go and share their faith with their friends. For me, I really believe that the greatest opportunity anyone ever has to hear the gospel is when they're sitting next to a young person in school, when they're on the sporting field with a friend as a young person, or when they're working in a McDonald's or wherever they are next to a Christian young person. I really believe that as a teenager, young people are so much more receptive to the gospel. And so for us, what we're trying to do is engage young people around the country in sharing their faith with other young people. One of the things we're working on is a project to develop some really effective and practical evangelism training, so that, and not just all about Youth Alpha, but working with other organisations who are passionate about engaging other young Christians to engage non-Christians. So that's one big thing we're working on. Another big thing for those of you who are Man vs Wild fans, we're working on getting Bear Grylls out to Australia. For some of you who have heard of Bear Grylls, you'd know he's a pretty big name. A lot of people love him, but he's also done the Alpha course and he's a big supporter of it. He goes to Holy Trinity Brompton, and he said to us, look, I'd love to support and help you however I can. So we're just working on how we can most effectively use Bear Grylls if he comes out here to Australia, to engage the general population with the fact that the Alpha course is there and that they can go to their local church and they can actually have a faith discussion through it.
That's fantastic, Jono. A final question I have for you. You're passionate about youth ministry and equipping Christian youth around Australia. So what advice would you give Christian youth out there looking at this production?
I think for me, the biggest thing was to get engaged, was to actually seek to serve God. I guess it's easy to go by and just do your schoolwork or to do your uni work and to focus on the future and go, the opportunities will come. But, you know, I guess the Bible points out lots of stories about people who God put something on their heart and they acted on it. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing, is for a young Christian person, it's easy to sit in the stadium, it's easy to sit on the sidelines, but it's so much better if you're in there and if you're trying to seek to share the gospel with your friends, if you're trying to seek to find ways that you can engage others to hear the gospel story. And ultimately that's what we're here for. We're here to share the joy and the faith and the hope that we have in Jesus. And so I really would encourage you to do that and to seek to serve those who are out and lost within society. One of the things that I really respect is my wife goes into a prison every single Thursday night, and I have so much respect and admiration for what she does, because she goes in there and she works with some young people who are, I guess, on the very fringe of society. And so I think for young people today, if you can seek to serve those who are on the fringe of society, and you can seek to be engaged in God's plan for this city and for this country and for this world, then I think you'll go a long way in really having a purpose and a reason for being here.
Jono Green from Youth Alpha, it's been a pleasure to hear your story, and all the best with the Youth Alpha program. This is Jeremy Dover from the Australian Missionary News signing off.